Let's take a look at how the Nigerian equities market is doing so far today. The all-share index down 0.7% so far, driven by losses seen in Dangote Cement. That stock is down about 6 naira. We've also seen losses in GT Bank. UBA also down as well. We've seen gains in the banking sector, however. We've seen Zenith Bank and FBN Holdings gains in those stocks today. And joining us on the show to discuss the activity in the market and for an update, we have John Ogar, who is the CEO of Investment One. John, thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you,
It would definitely
Good
be
morning.
great to have start with an update on the position of the market so far. I know the last time we spoke, you said the market was down about 0.7%.
Yes, the market is still down, moving south 70 basis points, driven majorly by loss in Dangote Cement, which is down 6 naira on the day. UBA is also looking south, as well as GT Bank, but a few other tickers are looking up this morning, such as Livestock Feed, Okomo Oil, and Presco.
I see. Is it too early to draw conclusions towards a negative close today on the back of those losses in Dangote Cement?
Yes, it's most likely because the momentum on Dangote Cement right now is rather slow. And also recall that today is the end of the month and the end of the quarter. So we expect to see some profit-taking activities that may drive down prices overall.
Okay, now we saw Forte Oil declare 91 billion in revenue for 2012, and now that's down 22.2% from the previous year. Profit after tax for the year stands at 1 billion, which is up 105.2% from previous year. Now, of course, that stock's year-to-date performance stands at about 85%. It's actually one of the stocks leading the rally in the first quarter of this year. It'd be interesting to know how the market is reacting to that news.
Yes, the reaction of the market to those numbers were rather negative. It lost 4–5% yesterday, and as we speak, it's still under selling pressure. I believe that the rally we saw in the share prices in the earlier part of this year were driven majorly by liquidity in the market and increased confidence. So the overall movement in markets also has some bandwagon effect on some of those other names.
Let's still stick to that oil and gas sector. I mean, that sector has actually gone up 29% year to date. Other stocks in there, we have Owando up 33%. It'll be interesting to know where your confidence levels are sitting right now in respect to the performance of that sector this year.
Well, 2013, in respect of the oil marketing companies, seems to be neutral to me because, first of all, several of them are still struggling with operational performance issues. And on the back of the pending subsidy issues, I think that investors are still being cautious about that sector generally.
Let's move on to the agricultural sector. Interesting news is the fact that that sector is actually the best performing sector so far this year. We've seen 44% gains across the sector. We saw Okomo Oil leading gainers table this week. Yesterday, of course, that stock went up 5%. Livestock has gone up 69% year to date. It is also one of these stocks leading the rally in Q1 this year. Of course, we heard about UAC Nigeria's recent acquisition of 51% in livestock feed. It would be good to know your thoughts on the prospects for livestock in Q2 and generally also for that agricultural sector.
Yes, for the agricultural sector, we are bullish on it. First of all, driven by several initiatives from the government sector. We've seen some reduction in duties and some slamming of import duties on some agricultural produce into the country. So we think that fundamentally this is good for the agri sector. Talking about livestock feeds, recall that, as you said, UAC has just taken a 51% stake. And UAC is also very bullish on that sector. So overall, we expect to see that sector outperform in the course of this year. Okomo oil, as we speak, is also doing very strong in the market. It's on full bid as we speak. The same with livestock feed. So we expect to see uptrend in these names being maintained in the course of the coming days.
Now, of course, today is the last day in the first quarter of 2013. We still haven't seen anything from the banks yet. I'm sure investors are beginning to worry. Of course, we saw some of those stocks drop their prices as a result of, investors being impatient. When do you think we'll start to see these results come through? We've been waiting for a while now.
Well, we had EcoBank Transnational release their figures yesterday, and it did very well, and investors really bought into the shares. But for Nigerian banks, we're expecting that GT Bank, Zenith should be out by now. But we got to understand that possibly the accounts are still undergoing further scrutiny, both from CBN and also from the Financial Reporting Council. So that has slowed down the release of their results. But we hope that maybe as the quarter ends and as we enter April, we should begin to see the numbers coming out.
Now, I read a report recently that said the market capitalization has risen by 2.6 trillion since market making commenced 6 months ago. Now, some market operators say there's still room for improvement, especially as securities lending has not kicked off yet. However, there's news out today that AMCON is to make some of its shares in banks available for securities lending. And this is, of course, positive news in respect to enhancing the liquidity in the market. So it would be good to get an idea of how encouraged you are by this news.
Well, I'm really excited about the development, and I also want to call on other institutional holders to begin to think seriously about securities lending, as we believe that it will deepen the market, and in line with other initiatives such as the supplemental market making that the NSC is about to release very soon. We believe that overall that will push liquidity in the market, and is good for investors generally.
More positive news. I mean, we obviously saw the NSC's trading figures for February. We saw 61% domestic investors increasing their share of the market to 61% this year. It'll be interesting to know, your feelings towards that. A lot of people were surprised by, that percentage figure. It'll be interesting to know how much growth you feel, the scope for growth for investment, for local investment to remain dominant in the market, local investors.
Yes, we believe that more local institutions are entering the market. For example, we heard that about 2% growth was recorded in the investment of PFAs from the 2011 figure. 2% growth in their participation in the market in the recent past. In addition to that, more interest from other institutions have tilted the scale in favor of domestic investors. And we believe that if this is sustained over the long term, that will be a very good one for our market, because a market that doesn't have domestic participation can only be a market that is open to so much volatility when foreign investors decide to leave for any reason.
Now, finally, of course, we've seen about 19% year-to-date gains so far in the all-share index. Now, as we approach Q2, I guess a lot of people are thinking of, wondering what's going to happen in the next quarter and how much more growth we can continue to see in our index as we move into the next quarter. So it'd be great to get your expectations on what to expect as we move into Q2.
As we move into Q2, I believe the major driver of performance of the market will be Q1 numbers that we hope to see, particularly from the financials, the banking sector particularly, and then some of the manufacturing companies that have a Q2 end of year, such as flour mills. And given the Q3 numbers that flour mills have released so far, we expect that we should still see some uptrend in Q2.